We had a school jazz band, and most of the kids in the school jazz band were actually just marching band kids who needed to take this class, and the teacher just kind of put them in there to fill the spots because we wouldn't have a band of people who actually wanted to play jazz. And so I met a few kids who really weren't that inspired about the music, and then I started showing them tunes, and they started really liking them, and they started practicing, and they started liking jazz, and then they started, actually getting into the whole jazz band scene, and I think, in my opinion, it really helped them.
At first, I had done it just because all my friends were doing it, and I wanted the extra time during the day to see them, and then I realized, oh my gosh, I'm really into this. This is really different.
At first, I hated it just because it was so different, but over time, after listening to it over and over again, I really started to love it.
I thought jazz was a really diverse genre of music.
Jazz as a genre is the most broad in terms of any genre of music because it encompasses, you got traditional jazz, you have bebop, you have modern jazz, you have free jazz, and all of those are so different from each other. It's actually incredible.
You never really know what's going to happen, and if other people are sharing that mindset, you're going to get into a lot of interesting situations that you're going to have to figure out how to get yourself out of.
A lot of people see jazz as a kind of unknown object because you have to improv or do improvisation, which is scary because it's not written out. You have to think of it yourself.
I haven't found any other way to really express myself in the truest way that I can imagine other than this form of music. There's nothing like it.
Well, first you get a little nervous, and then you look at the chord changes and you say, okay, this note works, and then this note really doesn't work. And then from there you kind of pick and choose, you try and stay in the key signature and just hope you can get through the couple choruses you have.
Scott Black sort of forced me not to use the blues scale so much, and he told me transcribe some J.J. Johnson, some Wycliffe Gordon and stuff, and from there on you start learning about phrasing and stuff and the type of ideas that they use, and it's sort of like a puzzle, I guess, or forming a sentence. There's jazz vocabulary, and you put one phrase, which would be a word, and then you get another phrase, and that's another word, and eventually you're telling a story.
I'm trying to expand my ear so that when I'm soloing, I can be really open to what's going on around me, what the bass player is playing, what the drummer is playing, so I can react to it accordingly.
I think the most enjoyable aspect of improvisation is the interaction I can get with the rhythm section and just all of that, and being able to create something as a whole with people that's not initially devised and structured.
Think about what makes bebop, and then later on, it'll kind of click. Oh, that's what that means, or this is what Dizzy Gillespie likes to do on that, or something like that. So I was improvising right away, and I think that's one of the best things about the TJIs. It gets you in a habit of starting out and being terrible, and then learning from that and continually working on that.
As you're improvising, it's definitely a form of vocabulary. You can definitely hear motifs, and you can definitely interpret your own message from each improvised solo. The thing is I think when the way a jazz musician interprets an improvised solo versus someone else is incredibly different. So I think everyone gets their own story from a jazz solo and improvisation in itself, but not everyone will get the same perspective when they listen to those.
You can tell if you're not doing your best in music, and that comes from whether or not you practice. I mean, I have a performance tomorrow, and I feel prepared for it, but if I didn't practice, you just don't feel as good about it. And it's not a great feeling.
People ask me, this how do you get better? And I'm just well, you just play. And ultimately, I do think that's what's gonna make you better. At least for me, that's what got me into improvising. Because I learned the scale loops, and I looked at them, and I learned the scale, my bebop scales, and then I just sat down, and I played. Like I put on like a backing track like of a 2/5. Like I bought like an app that can play back, and like I just played over it for like a long time. Like I just did that every day until I could play over like a 2/5/1 in the key of C.
Working with Jimmy Heath, he was extremely inspired. You know, going from, you know, half an hour a day, now he's putting in 3 hours a day, and it shows.
Ever since I was in 7th grade when I started out in Tucson Jazz Institute, I was like, man, I wish I could be in the Ellington band and stuff. And I want to keep working at it so I can make it maybe my freshman or sophomore year. And I kept working on it and listening to other jazz mentors like Louis Armstrong, Wynton Marsalis, Wycliffe Gordon, Al Gray, all those great jazz mentors.
I think there are a lot of more modern musicians nowadays who are mixing jazz and rock and such, and those are the types of music that my friends like. And so when I show them a jazz song, they're like, oh, this is pretty cool, this is pretty similar to what I've been listening to.